Okay, you guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenna Blackard,
And I'm Bianca Reina.
and this is the Hout Hustle Morning Mystic Show. And today we're talking with Dr. Stephen Farmer, who is a shaman, and Bianca is going to tell you all about
Sure.
him.
So today we're talking about healing your soul with the shaman and psychotherapist. Dr. Stephen Farmer is a best-selling author, a licensed psychotherapist, a shaman healer, a shamanic therapist, ordained minister, former college professor, and his extensive experience in the fields of psychotherapy and shamanistic therapy also allows him to provide his clients with a comprehensive, highly individualized counseling experience. Welcome, Dr. Farmer. How are you today?
Very good. I'm really impressed when I hear that. I go, wow,
I know.
Wow,
that's
I've really
about
done some
him. That's
things.
about this guy.
I feel the same way when I hear my bio too.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
like,
yeah,
is
you
that
guys.
true?
Hey, thank you for putting this on. And also for inviting me as a guest. I appreciate that. These are fun to do, and it gets
Mhm.
information out there. And obviously had a good response from the previous guests, from what I saw in the chat room. So, Rita, I think was her
Yeah.
name, or
Yeah.
still is her name. Yeah. But very impressed with that. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
You're providing quite a service, bringing
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
different
We-
teachers and healers.
Well, the universe pushed us and nudged us and said, "You're doing this." So it almost came down to we had no choice.
I understand that one. Yes, I do. You, it's like, you want
And
me
we
to
love it.
what?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm one
Yeah.
of
Like,
those.
quit my
And,
corporate job. Yeah, you want me to do, huh? And do a podcast on mysticism?
yeah, what's that tapping on my
with
head?
this
I
weird
feel
girl.
I love it so much.
yeah,
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. I feel like lots of times people forget that, when you're an expert such as you are, uh, that we've had these really humanistic experiences that brought us to this moment in time. And, I feel like it's also inspiring for people to hear that, you had maybe there might have been doubt or, what does those look like? Or tell us about one of your most, interesting
Mystical
mystical experience
moment.
moments in
okay,
your life as well.
I have buttons. You just push a button and I'll tell you a
Let's
story
go.
about
Let's go.
history.
I love it.
Oh, let's see. What could I tell you? I grew up a small child. We don't need to start there.
Yeah.
No, I was drawn to. I really kind of nixed the idea of God for a long time as a child. My parents didn't really force a lot of religion on me, but I think what they would do is they would drop me and my two brothers and sisters off at the church, and then they'd go home and they have Sunday morning free, so you can
Yeah,
take
yeah,
it from
yeah.
there, have a little time for
Wow.
themselves.
Well, they're smart.
But I don't know if that's true, but I kind of suspect that. Anyway, I basically rejected it. It just didn't make sense to me, and what sparked it was the death of a nearby little girl next door that she and I used to play with when I was very young. I was 7 and I think she was 6. And so we'd get on our trikes and all that. And then I learned that she had leukemia and I didn't know what it was. And I ended up like this that night,
Oh,
praying
yeah.
to God. I get tears even. Still
Mhm.
get a body reaction, at that memory. And basically,
Oh,
what happened, of course, she died.
yeah.
And in spite of my prayers.
Mhm.
And that was a decision I made. There's no God. I didn't even know the word atheist, but at that time, no God. So to jump, not to go into like, the next
No, it's
half hour
fine.
story, but I gradually kind of pulled back, into searching. That's the thing. I think we go through phases like that of just searching for something that makes sense, and we can incorporate in our day-to-day kind of living. Church of Religious Science went there, and believe it or not, they were actually having fun with
Yeah.
religion. So I
Cool.
went there for a while. It was a great community. One thing led to another. Eventually got my master's and eventually my PhD. But in that, I got licensed as a psychotherapist in California,
Mhm.
even though I live now in Oregon. And then later introduced to shamanism. And it was like a 2-day course, and I just caught fire.
Yeah.
This is it. This is my next step. And I don't know about you guys, but when you get bonked on the head with something like that, you just know.
Yeah.
In your heart of hearts, that's the path. And
Mhm.
so I did, and then one thing led to another, and then I published some books as a therapist, one of which still is still around. I'm looking around my desk, called Adult Children of Abusive Parents, and it was really before trauma became a household word.
Mhm.
So I'm really pleased with that I was tagged to do that as a therapist, and a couple other books, and then there was a gap, and then I started writing again in a different domain, sacred ceremony, first book out in this large genre that we inhabit here, and it followed up with other books like Animal Spirit Guides, one of my bestsellers, Pocket Guide to Spirit Animals, Oracle cards,
Interesting.
Yeah.
which they're very popular these days. They're kind of easy to use tarot.
I was telling you
Yeah.
that.
That's
That's a
tarot. I have tarot too, and I work with tarot, but I
mhm.
really find these work. That's the beauty of it. So anyway, I went on to publish a few different oracle card decks, some other books, Earth Magic, a
Mm.
Sacred Ceremony I mentioned, a couple others that just don't come to mind right offhand, but a few books and more on the way. I've got about four different ideas I'm juggling, and I just got to carve the time out to write. And
Yeah,
I don't know if either of you are writers, but
I
boy,
am. I have
okay,
two of my own books and have
and
two collab books.
you understand.
I know.
Yeah,
I
she
love
I
does.
have to set
writing
aside
too.
focus, set
Hmm.
aside time, all the stuff
Yeah.
that goes with it in our very busy lives, that typically I'm sure the two of you are very, very busy. And it takes a discipline and a focus to
Hmm.
do it.
Yes.
But the rewards are just incredible. And I'm not talking about sales. I'm just talking about the rewards.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it totally is.
People talk about, oh, I saw this. I had a dream of a kangaroo. What's that mean? And
Mm.
they have resources in addition to the internet to look at.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a relatively short summary of my path. And like I said, I've got uh, other books in mind, and I'm right at that crest where, okay, I've got to set aside. What I've done before is I see clients too online. If they're nearby, they may come to my office, but most of the stuff's online. It's what's going on these days. Most of the stuff's online. And at the same time, I'm involved in workshops and groups and such like that. I came back 3 weeks ago from what is called the Gathering of Shamans, happens every year in Sedona,
Right.
What
and
is it?
just a
I
great
love
venue.
that area
So that's a sweep of
of the things you've done.
yeah, yeah.
Is there when I'm led to talk about spirit animals with you, but is there a topic that you feel really called that you want to talk about today?
Well, there's what's up right now, ancestors.
Okay,
Yeah, you were
Our
saying that,
ancestors.
and I
Spirit
agree.
animals, always love to talk about spirit. I can talk about
great.
shamanism. I
Yeah,
glanced quickly at the chat room, and there was a question I'm going to address, if that's okay.
great.
Can we practice shamanism without being a shaman?
Mm.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I sometimes am called a shaman, and I accept that. If I say this to the world, I say I'm a shamanic practitioner.
Got it.
I'm also on the board for an organization called Society for Shamanic Practice.
Mhm.
It used to be called Society for Shamanic Practitioner. So it's ssp.org if who wrote that is interested. And it really is, there's more to shamanic practice than, it's not about being a
Yes.
shaman. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
Ceremony, when you do a ceremony of some
You're
sort,
sending that to
sacred ceremony.
Intellecti.
I see that.
Yeah, a sacred ceremony of some sort. In a sense, you're practicing something very shamanic. The tradition of shamanism goes way back to indigenous communities where there was one person in the tribe or the community that was the healer. But the way they worked with the healing was in different ways. They worked spiritually with the healing, always had guides. You have to. But that doesn't mean you're a shaman. It just means you work with the guides. And that's absolutely critical these days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely critical. If you who are listening have one takeaway from the presentation here is get in touch with your guides. Stay in touch. Do
Mhm.
it the best you can. Navigating the world these days has more challenges than it did, say, 50 years ago. There were challenges then, don't get me wrong. But I think there's so much going on with the planet, with the politics here in the States, all over the place, the people are suffering, etc. And it is my honor to know and be clear about my purpose. And also that a lot of what we do, and I include you guys in this, is a service.
Mm.
And it's not just a service to humanity. Yes, we'll start there. But again, animal spirit guides, it's a service to the animals.
Mhm.
It's a service to the trees. It's a service to the mother of us all. And
Yeah.
what a blessing just to be alive. Go out in the forest. You want to start doing some healing, gang? Go out in the forest, take a few breaths there. Go up to a tree and say, "Thank you, tree." I have a little ritual, and I'll
Mhm.
shut up for a while.
No, we love
No,
it.
I love it.
I I have a little ritual I do. I have this great dog. He's 4.5 years old. He's out now because we played a lot this morning. But when we go, he's a retriever, a lab retriever. And guess what he likes to do best? Retrieve.
Yes.
Throw
I
the,
had one of
I'll throw
those.
the ball, he'll bring it back. I'll throw the ball, bring it back. He'll sniff and do his dog stuff, in between. But I've taken up I consider it to be a sacred ritual. It's just so simple. I keep water in the car. When we're ready to go, I take the bowl out, pour some water in. He drinks it and usually leaves a little bit. I take that little bit of water as an offering. I find the nearest tree and I pour a little water on the tree and I say, "Thank you, tree." Well, this makes me emotional.
Wow.
Thank
Oh.
you, tree. And thank you, tree spirit. Thank you for all the beauty that you provide and the provisions that you provide, for all beings on this earth. Then I take what remains of the water, pour it onto the land. And again, I say, "Thank you, Mother, the mother of us all.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mother, for your provisions, for allowing us to walk on your skin and to experience life."
Yeah.
Just things like that,
Mhm.
and I pass this along to the listeners because, listen, guys, you don't have to go through a lot of this and that or study to be a shaman or something like that to really practice these kind of ceremonies or sacred rituals or sacred ceremonies, whatever you prefer to call them. But it just takes the intention there, and this
Yeah.
is what you guys are about too, I see.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
assuming from what I
absolutely.
read is
Yeah.
just supporting that kind of, and we're kind of slow human beings, you
You
know.
could
You
say
think?
that.
So, so the more I'll speak for myself, but I'll generalize too. We need to stay attuned and
Yeah.
to do the
Mhm.
things such as you're doing and what you're offering to help us stay attuned to another reality that's right here. Yeah, it is right here. I
Mhm.
visit that reality when we go to sleep and dream. Or we can live that reality by incorporating it with our daily practices.
What do you say
Yeah.
to someone that wants to do more daily practices? Like, I'm newer to maybe the idea of shamanism, and the practices. Like, I mean, hearing you give a little ritual like that, I'm like, that's so cool. Why didn't I think of that? And where would we find more practices like that if we just wanted to integrate just a couple more into our lives?
Well, God, urge to choke, dare I?
I
No,
know. I
go for
love
it.
it.
Do it. Do
I
it.
have
It's
to
so
watch that
fun.
because,
We just laugh
but
at
it's,
ourselves.
but
We do.
laughter is great. Laughter is great.
That's my favorite thing to do, actually, is to
Just to
laugh.
laugh. Okay,
Hmm.
well, we're getting along fine then, for sure. No, I was going to say something silly of like, yeah, well, send me $2,000
There we
and,
go.
and
And I'll write them up
I'll
for you.
But I think a more serious or response to something like that question is um, start picking up books like Way of the Shaman by Michael
Mhm.
Harder. He's to me, he's the one individual. He and I would say Sandra Ingerman, I would include her in this as well. And she has a book too. I forget the name of her book, but it's about oh, I think it's called Soul Retrieval. Sandra Ingerman, Michael Harner, Harner, Way of the Shaman. He is he's in the afterlife. He's ancestor now. But I would, given what I know about him and having studied with him, he is largely responsible for bringing shamanism into contemporary society, especially in this culture here. It's been around for thousands of years in various indigenous cultures. Peru has been very prominent, in the revival of and the reawakening, if you will, of shamanism.
Nice.
I've been there, done that, done the medicine, the plant medicine. It's amazing to participate in that cultural ritual, that sacred ritual. So, in answer to your question, is that's a way to get started. Start reading, go to events, go to ssp.org.
That's
I
what I
don't
was
get
thinking.
for that, by the way. It's a good
Yeah.
organization. I'm very impressed at having been involved for a while. And there's
Mhm.
others too, the Society for, there's others, you can look them up, but just start getting involved, get interested.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, because your curiosity is being driven by source.
Ah, thank you. Say that
Always.
again for the people in the back
That's
row.
actually a good meme, huh?
Yeah, I was like, say that
Yeah.
again for the people in the back row. Your curiosity is driven by
Driven by
source.
Yeah.
source.
Yes.
It all is really,
Well,
but
Yeah.
yeah.
speak about this topic, yeah, it's driven by source. So honor your curiosity. Ask questions like the person in the chat room, was asking the questions. No, you don't need, it's not about, okay, I go to college for 4 years and then I can go, oh, I'm a shaman. That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's just a word. It's been
Mhm.
translated in different ways. It's from the Ivanka people of Siberia that the word actually emanates or
Mhm.
comes from, but it simply means one who heals or one who sees so,
Nice.
beyond
Uh-huh.
the ordinary reality. And also learn how to do the shamanic journey.
Mm.
Again, I keep saying this and I'll continue. It's not about being a shaman. That's not the point. But it is about understanding and bringing in tools and ideas and ceremony, especially healing ceremonies, how you set the altar up. You should see my altar. I wish you could.
Mm.
I moved here about a year and a half ago, and I set up the altar. It's this big, huge altar like this, one of them, and then there's a family altar that I set up specifically for Halloween. That's a whole nother story. But I had my family. I have two daughters, and they live 6 hours, one 6 hours north and one 6 hours south. I have grandchildren, and they were all over here after I moved into this house. And I asked them to bring something special and sacred.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
isn't that cool? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the altar, each of them contributed to that altar. And
Oh,
it's more than a
wow.
family
Love
altar,
this.
but
Yeah.
they're included in it. Get this. I sit up with pride
I
as a
hear,
father.
I see.
My daughter, Catherine, has three children. One is a girl that's going to turn 14. So she's in that transitional area. She started her, I hope it's okay to share. So
Yes.
everybody,
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
feel
knows.
yeah.
free.
We
I
can,
won't,
we
I
can,
won't,
yeah.
I won't say her name, but Catherine, my daughter, I already said,
Uh-huh.
um, to acknowledge this transition, this rite of passage. First off, the difference between males and females is females get a real clear body signal that
Yeah,
it's,
that's true.
the moon time.
Yes,
Mhm.
got
Love
it.
it.
Yeah, and I love that way of saying it too. So my now soon to be 14-year-old granddaughter had her moon back in July, but her mother wanted to honor her. So she got
Oh, that's
together
so pretty.
a bunch of her women friends
Mhm.
and asked me, I can't contribute, sit in because it's a woman thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I respect it just like men have the men thing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But what I did do is write a blessing. And I got it, I swear to God, I had help, writing
Yeah.
the
Of
blessing to be
course.
read to her.
Yeah.
I'm considering maybe sharing it, but it's pretty special, so I have to be really careful about
I
that.
understand.
But it was partly my um, I'm good with words. That's my art, is words, and partly inspired, coming through.
Mhm.
It's like, oh gosh, are you guys familiar with what that's like? Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Of course,
totally. Like we're both channels, and
I
yeah,
am
everyone on this and
because
half the people on
oh,
this
I'm sure,
listening are too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great to see things like that. That
Mhm.
it's all right. My baby got the genetics.
Love it.
Yeah, cool. Very
But my other
cool.
my other daughter too, is very conscious about that. But more importantly, beyond that, is I think we're beginning to see children who are coming through with parents
Mm.
who have that capability of accessing non-ordinary reality. Let's just call it that for general. And
Mhm.
what a blessing. There's a new human being that's emerging.
Yes. And so that's exactly why I asked the question. It was more because I was envisioning myself doing the same little ritual that you had described with the water and then pouring it onto the land with my 12-year-old son. He goes to a Catholic school, which we love. Like it's amazing. And my son does get the difference between like, he knows it's not the end all be all for the religion. Of course, we do love the fact that like, that there's a lot of goodness that can come from having the religious background as far as like, learning
I
to
agree.
communicate, right? But he also realizes that, this is one iteration. And so I was thinking like when I heard you saying that, like, where can I get more of these rituals that I could
Mhm.
have him come with me and we could, because I was talking about everything has consciousness in the land, right? Or like in everything, right? And honoring the way that maybe the way that Native Americans had did in our culture. And I would just wanted to maybe bring some more of that out in the way that I could show him. And so that
Agree.
way I could be a good
Mhm.
mama in the way that like I'm learning
God
all of
bless
this
you.
stuff. And I want to be able to share that with my child and kind of have it be fun and, use his hands and do something
Yeah.
too, right?
Absolutely.
God bless you. God bless you.
Yeah. So that was
And
kind of where the idea came from. Like, where do I get these little rituals that we can do together?
I would love if you
let me
talk
give
about
you,
oneness from a shamanic point of view too, because I feel like might be a little bit different than the way that we talk about it.
yeah,
One,
sure.
I
Hold on one
definitely want to get
second.
into the ancestral as well.
Forgive me.
absolutely.
I want to
Yes,
get
we
you.
need to get into the
I want to
ancestral
get
too.
your names right too.
It's
Leonka,
Okay.
Yes, Leonka. Yes,
Leonka,
like Bianca with an
And
L.
Kenneth,
it's pronounced Jenneth like Kenneth.
Jenna, Leonka,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, this I thought we talked. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I met you before. I want to respond to something you said about your son. Number one, I think a foundation of religious experiences. I had that to some extent as well, but not quite as consistent. But I had to find my own path,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and I got my butt kicked, to have it happen with the death of the neighbor girl. Sometimes that's the way it works, just the way it works.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a training. He's too young for the training itself. It's called New Warrior Training. Look it up. They have sponsored something for boys going through adolescence, early
Yeah.
adolescence, called Boys to Men.
Oh, that sounds so cool.
I'll let you research it. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm in a men's group here. I've done the New Warrior training. I give my seal of approval for it. I don't know much about the other Boys to Men other than I've heard about it, etc. But also for him to find an ally in an older man, that you, mom, you can trust,
Yes.
uh, and maybe start some kind of engagement like that. Or if I don't know if you're married, but your husband
Yeah.
might be a possibility, or a uncle, or a nephew. So that's it. Or if you come across Native American and you hear about something like that, but first off, you guys know this, but set your intention.
Okay.
Find somebody, someone will come into his life,
Oh,
enter him.
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you
Hold
for
that,
that
yeah,
reminder.
hold that as an intention. In
Thank you.
addition to maybe a little, ground, uh, check out New Warrior Training, Boys to Men, and all that.
Awesome. Thank
Anyway, I want
you.
to respond to that. So, Jeneth, yeah, what was your comment or your question about what?
I thought you might want to talk about oneness from a shamanic point of view. We talk about relationship a lot, like my relationship with a tree, right? With a plant, with a dog, and not, and of course, human beings too. And, we're like, there's always this degree of separation. And I've talked about the field and how the field just kind of, just because we're solid doesn't mean any field stops there. That just goes right through us. But I keep hearing it in different ways. So I was wondering what it might be if I asked you.
Here's my take. Here's a take uh,
Okay.
on your question. One of the ways to view things is with what I would call paradox.
Mm.
Paradox, and this is from my practice and studies of I'm a hypnotherapist as well, which I'm not sure it was in the bio. It doesn't matter, but I love hypnosis. I learned a
We
lot
do
just.
too.
Yeah,
We are both.
I'm a
Oh,
hypnotherapist
you
Yeah.
as
guys are
well.
okay.
Yeah.
But in what I understand, the subconscious mind can handle this, but the conscious mind will struggle with it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's paradox, that it's a
Uh-huh.
both and.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that cool? It's
No, I
simple.
love that.
I like simple wisdom like that too.
Yeah.
And yes, we are all one. Oh, it reminds me of a Monty Python piece where some guy's preaching on a second floor to a big crowd and said, "No, we're all one." And then the crowd goes, "We're all one," hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
people. And then there's one guy that stands up and puts his hand up and says, "I'm not." Monty Python, I love it, that kind of
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
And in a way, it kind of goes back to what I suggested. It's paradox. Yes, we're one, we're unified. I look at my dog and I sometimes the best way I would describe it is two words: amazement
Mm.
and awe.
Uh-huh. I
I
knew you were
walk
going to
through the
say, oh,
forest,
so
same
funny.
thing.
Yeah.
Amazement and just awe. And it's not just here. I can say, well, that's pretty amazing.
Sure.
And mean it. But you guys have done this, I'm sure, hundreds of times where you just have a brief experience, right,
Mm-hmm.
of that awe. There's no other
Mm-hmm.
word that describes it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Breath and wow, I am alive. And look at what all this around me and this connection that I feel. But you don't have those words at that point. Later, you might want to write it down, Jer. But at that time, it's pure experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm hit with just when I do put words on it is what a blessing it is to be alive on this planet in this
Yeah.
vast
Time.
universe
Mm-hmm.
at this time.
Yeah.
And that appreciation, I just posted something earlier today on gratitude.
Mm.
I really want to promote that a lot.
Me
Yes.
too.
I'll tell you my experience with it is, I don't know if you guys would confess to this, but do you guys ever whine?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
We
for your,
whine too.
yeah, I can
I can't even
outline the
drink it, so I
best
don't
of.
even have the wine to wine with. How does he
Well,
wine?
it's the same. It means a similar thing as complaining.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Boy, that word has more impact, doesn't it? And I
Yeah.
got to tell you, I give myself complete permission to whine.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Second, though, what I want to do is I want to be aware of it when I'm doing it,
Mhm.
Mm.
so that I allow it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
I've said, I want to get off it as soon as possible. In other words, I'll go there, but I don't hang out there. I don't, it doesn't do any good,
Mhm.
to hang out there.
Yeah.
I call it, another term I have for it is bitching and moaning.
That sounds
Of course, you
closer to
guys
me.
never do
That
that, do
sounds
you?
closer to
No,
mine.
not at all.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
my point being is, I think that puts us in a frame, though, if we hang out there.
Yeah.
It's more about, do we hang out there or let it go?
Yeah.
Go there, be aware of it, because we're human beings. We're
Yes.
Mhm.
powerful human beings. And we also are aware much more than, let's say, a certain number of people, that there's a bigger picture going on.
Yeah.
The source is behind it all, no matter how it manifests in physical reality. That's a good word for source, great spirit,
Mhm.
God. There's different words for that. Or like in Star Wars, use the Force, Luke.
Mhm.
We'll call it the Force. That's okay
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think I have more fun when I use it like, calling it the Force in that Star Warsy way too, because it just makes it a little more playful as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, one of our shows, I was sitting in traffic on the way home, and I had this glimpse of awe. Like everyone around me was kind of like angry and road ragey, and I was like sensing it. And then just at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I could right now be in the 1800s in a really
Yeah, that's right. I remember
hot,
that.
hot carriage.
Think about that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was just like a glimpse and a glimmer that just kind of went through me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I'm in this air-conditioned car and I can listen to my radio and I have this comfortable seat. It was just like the whole thing just became like overwhelming of awe. And yet I was just sitting in traffic and the collective is like, "Rah, rah, rah." And so that's like some of the benefits of really going there with some of this mysticism and shamanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And this
You
is the
see
same.
things differently. It's like it's
Yeah.
always your point of view. Even when you're complaining, it's your point of view. And
Yeah.
when you're aware of it, you can go, well, do I actually have that point of view? Can I change that and look at things a different way?
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
I also want to comment, let yourself be whelmed, but not over.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I
It's just
like
play with
that.
wordplay, again. I
Yeah,
like words. But
I
also
do
something
too.
I
I
do too.
noticed, is as you were describing it using your hands, which is very expressive,
Mhm.
it would form mudras.
I'm Italian. Actually, I'm
Well,
not as
that,
much
but
Italian.
also
I
your
just got
hands.
my ancestry DNA.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, I love Italians.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that later. But anyway, um,
We should
your
get
hands
there.
were like you were doing things with your hands. I don't know if you can see my
Mhm.
hands so much, but
Mhm.
you were doing things with your hands that were really mudras. I like this one here. You know, um, Mudras are just different ways that we could pray,
Mhm.
so we automatically do it. You just demonstrated that, I think.
Yeah, the okay. I know that's a mudra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to study some of that in yoga.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
I'd love to give us some time to talk about the ancestral
Ancestry.
because it's really, really coming up, and we're seeing a lot of people starting to understand this more. They don't fully, maybe in mainstream media, they don't fully understand it, but they are really subscribing to it. And you're seeing this also in our movies, mainstream movies, where you had like Wakanda. I forgot what the actual name of it was, but they had that whole timeline in the movie where they shot, where they kept going back to the ancestral plane, and the main character would go back and he would consult with his ancestors, about what to do in this, war that they were experiencing. They came back with more enhanced knowledge. It may not be what it looks like in the movies, but what are some of the ways in which we can utilize some of this wisdom, and what are some of the thoughts? Because I know that you're working on a new book in that realm. So,
Right. What
yeah,
I have a book, two books about ancestors, one healing ancestral karma, and then
yes,
a slightly revised one, healing ancestral family patterns. Purpose of
yes,
that, there's one that goes into a great more depth about ancestors, and the other one is more about your more immediate family,
okay, okay.
epigenetics, how you carry the DNA, and
Oh,
if
fascinating.
grandma was traumatized, it could show up in you, some of the effects. Oh, it's epigenetics. Look it up.
Mhm.
Great stuff. Science. Anyway,
Love science and love it. Love talking epigenetics. So I'll
yeah,
definitely have
okay,
to
you're
check it
familiar
out.
with it. Yeah,
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 yes.
yeah. No, I'll give you an example. Okay, real quick example here. What they found in the studies was that the children of Holocaust survivors were exhibiting very similar symptoms. Once they were away from that, they were very similar symptoms as the Holocaust survivors, the parents and the grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was that that was coming down through the lineage,
Physical
and that
lineage.
the children are experiencing post PTSD.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
yeah, whoever's listening, you can look that up though. It's a fascinating piece. So ancestors, yeah. I remember, I was trying to remember oh, a friend of mine who's shamanic practitioner, she shared this, something her teacher had said that she studied with, Gretchen, and she shared it with me. And she said PT, I think was his initials, um, looked at Gretchen at one point and said, "You've lost your ancestors." And he said it with sadness.
Mm.
So Gretchen um, realized that it was very important for her practice, and also that what she teaches is to stay attuned to the ancestors. So there's a couple of different things I would say about it. One, your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, great grand, start thinking of them not just as deceased loved ones. Think of them also as ancestors. That
Mhm.
they are carrying the lineage. They carried the lineage up to you, that now you're carrying them in a sense, in
Mhm.
your DNA, in your genetics, etc. So when we deal with just when we deal solely with the family ancestral patterns, we begin to see, like I mentioned about epigenetics, good stuff and what we might call bad stuff can be handed down the lineage to where it lands on you. So any of the work that you do to help heal yourself can be transmitted and gifted to the ancestors. I
Mhm.
just set up I'm doing a
Uh-huh.
series.
Because of the timeline collapse. Uh-huh.
I'm not
Wow.
sure
Oh,
what
that
that
totally
is,
makes
but
sense.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's an
Yes.
Hmm.
exercise. I just finished a write-up. I'll be doing presenting a series, 7-part series in July, starting in July, through the Shift Network, and it's all about this, what we're jumping into now. And again, I'm fascinated by it because I've had visitations from my ancestors. I suspect that you two have. I suspect other listeners have had those visitations as well.
Hmm.
But we also get messages from the ancestors. You think that bird that keeps showing up, that little blue jay that keeps showing up at your doorstep, yes, it in one ordinary reality, it's a bird that's showing, it's a pretty bird that's showing up. Okay.
Hmm.
But let's try something else on. What if maybe one of your ancestors sent that bird to try to get your attention, to try to get a message to you? What if that dream you had where grandpa showed up is a way, a means to try to get your attention? I was given in a shamanic journey, actually a series of journeys, about 4 journeys, this roadmap, if you will, of the afterlife. So interesting.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
And I was very specifically told, this is not for you to go out and teach everybody. This is the way it is. This is for you and the work that you're doing. And then if someone does subscribe to it and makes sense, like you got kind of excited about it, yeah, it's a pretty exciting. And that is that the answer, when you're dead, there's still work to do.
Sure.
Boils down to that.
Hmm.
Um, there's different ways to think about death. One is that it's not, you don't die, your body dies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that consciousness that inhabits and animates this body dissipates into what we could call the afterlife. Yet, and this is what I've been shown, and that consciousness may shapeshift, do different forms, etc., and will retain a lot of the information that you gained when you were in physical form.
Hmm.
Actually, it was shown there are 4 worlds in the afterlife, and 3 rooms in each world.
Uh-huh.
And I've never studied this, but some mystical practices say, yeah, there are 12, that 12 is a magic number.
Yes,
Mhm.
I've
Not,
seen that.
you've seen
Like
this?
Carolyn Meese in her book where she goes through the different houses. Can't remember what it's called right now, but
At the
Yes.
drop.
I see lots of allusions to
12,
12.
12,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
some, anyway, so you go through each of the 4 worlds, 1 room at a time, and then you go to the next room, etc., till
mm,
you reach what was called, termed first source and center.
uh-huh.
Again, you can put any other name, on any other name that's familiar to God, source, the force, etc.
Mhm.
But I like that first source and center.
Ooh,
And that's where you merge completely into the larger field of consciousness. So your identity is pretty well.
is this as we ascend in our learning, we would then access these different rooms?
Right, exactly. It's like when you're ready to move to the next room
Sure.
after the three, um, let's see if I get this right. Move to the next world after you've completed the first 3 rooms. Yeah. It's like
Mm.
you're gaining knowledge. The fascinating thing, and I've done this in workshops, is to do something I would call mutual healing with the ancestor. And you identify a condition in yourself. It
I
could be,
get it.
now you get it, physical, mental.
Yes.
I worry a lot.
Yes.
Say that's the condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so then I can't give you the whole setup because it take too long, but basically you go into an altered state and then you imagine which ancestor, you imagine that V, 3 or 4 generations back, mom's side or dad's side, whichever one intuitively you want to work with. And this, you got to work with dad's side. And then you ask for identification of the ancestor that most strongly carried that same condition, worry. We'll call it worry just for practice. And then I don't work with the archangels a lot, but I do work with Archangel Michael.
I do
And
too.
in this particular exercise, ask Archangel Michael to come in, to send healing power to that particular ancestor that's been spotlighted. And then the amazing thing is the ancestor then takes that now healed condition and sends it back to you. And then you receive that. And then just see what happens.
I like that because I also worry about, am I getting my lesson and am I going to do the karmic thing and then move through?
Yeah.
Which I know I shouldn't worry about on a real level, but I think it's funny that I do.
Now here's again, I wordplay. I do a lot of wordplay. I call them considerations
Okay.
instead of worries or concerns.
Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I'm a little concerned that we're going to be late for the party instead of, oh God, I'm really worried we're going to be late for here's some
Yeah.
considerations. I'm thinking of
Okay.
some
I
things to
like
go.
that.
Yeah, it's just but the impact of words,
Sure, because it's
my
coded.
art, words.
Yeah.
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 You guys write poems?
I have.
I write songs. Yeah. So I guess the same. It's
Do you
been a
sing?
long time.
Do you sing?
Yes. I do sing. I do sing. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on over. We'll play. I play guitar.
Yay.
I've
Oh,
written several
fun. All these
original songs.
musician play dates from the summit.
Anyway, I want to just let me tag the poem part. Something I started doing a while back. Again, I love words. Is a challenge that I came across. Write a poem in 10 minutes. I dare you, especially since you've written poems, Jenna. Try it just
Yeah,
with a 10
no,
minute timer.
yeah.
The
It's,
purpose, my experience with it is this, is that you can't think about it too much. So
Yeah.
the usual kind of thinking is like you take that off and put it over here
That's a
and
good one.
allow the words to emerge.
I would
And
almost need somebody to give me a one-word topic, and then I could do it.
I don't think so. I think you'd be good.
Yeah, I think you don't even think I need a topic.
There you go. What's the word? What does that
What's the
say?
word?
well, a dandelion this is from the Secrets
So
Oh,
of Nature
pretty.
Oracle
it
cards.
flows in the breeze. It plants
And
its seeds.
I love it.
So there's
It gives you
dandelion.
everything you would
There's
need.
the key word. That's
Even
beautiful.
liver
See what happens? See what
detoxification.
happened? You give her a word and look what good she's taken off.
That's right. That's
And
right.
the word for dandelion is healing.
Mhm.
That
Oh,
It
comes
is a
from is that
healing plant.
apparently, I'm not
Yeah.
an expert at this, but there's a lot of benefits from
Yeah.
working with dandelions.
Yeah.
I,
We even had a speaker that did a dandelion detox of the liver that she shared.
confirmation.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
cool stuff.
So that's your word, either dandelion
Uh-huh.
or healing, and write a 10-minute poem.
I could do that.
You can do it. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You
okay. So the two things we're going to look for on social media. So
Yeah.
you're going to send me a picture of your altar since you said you wanted to show it.
Yep.
If
okay?
you feel so inclined, send me a picture via email and I'll put it on our House Alive. And then you
Yeah.
get to write a poem. So
Okay.
there you go.
I'll do it. In fact,
I would like to see it too, by the
I
way.
That's
used to do
right.
the poems all the time, and I was started a feed and I was posting them, but nobody was really like bringing them, into their world. So I was like, well, if nobody cares, I'm not going to do this anymore.
So think
Which
about
was
what
a
that,
point of view a
yeah,
long time ago. I've actually gotten rid of the point of view. I now do
good.
things for myself.
Love
Oh, I'm
it.
glad to hear that.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I had
Lots of
another.
fun, Joe says. Thank you,
Yeah.
Joe. And then the comment here says, I'm glad to know ancestors isn't limited to a certain generation.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the elders. I would call them the elders of the ancestral world. I
Mhm.
mean, let's take a long look at this. We go back. Theory has it, or science says, yeah, we're from the apes. Something happened. I remember the first
It's
10 minutes
changing now, though.
of
Like
the
that
movie.
information is changing. They've now found that we're not from
That's true.
Neanderthal,
That's
and
what I
yeah, we've been kind of mutated
Yeah.
and injected with some alien DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's new
I have
information
no
about
doubt.
this. Brand new. It's like within the last 2 or 3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Greg Braden talks about it if you want to look into it.
Great guy. He's one of my heroes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh
me
my
too.
gosh.
Yeah.
Brings
He's
science
incredible.
into this
Uh-huh.
Yes, and that's
realm of
Yeah.
it's
mysticism.
fun. That makes it fun.
Mhm.
Great deal of respect for.
What would your advice be for my daughter who is adopted from China that doesn't actually, even know the name of her mother, her birth mother or father? Can she just ask or
That's a great
request from the
question.
field
Good
to get
question. Yeah.
connected?
Great
What
Yeah,
would
question.
she can still, first off, when she's little, I don't know how old she is.
she's 19 now.
I know it. Oh, Scout, come here. Here for one sec.
Sure.
Yes.
Commercial. Scout, come.
Well, she's old enough now to open her
Her
Akashic
Akashic
record
record.
and
Yeah.
do a
How old is she?
Yeah.
QHHT session.
How old
She's
is she?
19.
Oh, she's old enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could guide her in some exercise, like a start would be, you know, you don't know your mom, you don't know who she is, but you're genetically connected. So
Hmm.
let's start with this. Is start with close your eyes, do a meditative kind of help her drop into a altered state,
Hmm.
and then just picture it. You may not get images, just qualify it all the way and say, just see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens. But you might not picture your mom or your dad, or you might grandma and grandpa, but go ahead and just let's work with it here. Just three
Hmm.
generations
Right.
back to grandma and grandpa. You might see him
Uh-huh.
in a different form than a human form. It's any of these things are possible. That'll get started in her inquiry into her relationships with her family lineage. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, absolutely. And Lianka does a QHHT and I do hypnosis, so that's really quite easy for us to,
No,
integrate into her world. I really I guess I just never thought of it until now, until you just told us. Yeah, that's a
about
great idea. She would receive that. She's all into the spooky.
yeah, it's something that's easy to do, and you keep lowering expectations.
There you
Hmm.
go.
Yeah.
There
Not
you
to
go.
expect this, that, or just see what happens. That's one of my
Mhm.
favorite phrases. Let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's try this and see what happens. And then you agree, and then we try it and
Yeah.
find out what happens.
Wow.
So
She'd love that too. I think that'd be so
Yeah, she
Good.
would.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Wow.
Well, it'll initiate the investigation,
Hmm.
into her ancestry and her
Yeah.
family's ancestry. Yeah, you'll be willing to be surprised.
Yeah. Be willing to be surprised. That's another good meme.
I know. Okay, speaking of surprise, so you can divulge if you want to, but what is one of the most interesting or like maybe surprising in mystical experiences that you may have had in your journey, just for to allow us to see maybe behind the curtain a little bit. Or just to
Sure.
be like, oh, because sometimes I have stuff happen and I'm like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've gotten
I
better with it now.
good. Okay, yeah. I'll condense the story because
Okay.
might I don't want it would take too long to tell the whole story. But one of the most impactful events that I had experienced as an adult was a friend and I did some hiking in the Big Sur area in California. Um, and the intention was very clear. I'm a child of the 60s, so I did my LSD, mushrooms, etc., but it was all about tripping, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know, and seeing, this and that.
Yeah.
I came across a book by Terence McKenna called Food of the Gods. And I went, whoa, there's a whole other story. I get chills on this one too, of how these medicines, and truly they are medicines, can be utilized in the
Okay.
proper way.
Mhm.
There's no more messing around. You know, you're
Yeah.
not at the point anymore. You're not going to go and take them and see waves and things like that. I
Mhm.
see oatmeal on the ceiling. I remember that one. Anyway, so yeah,
And that's probably the years where there was that popcorn ceilings.
yes, those years,
That's
yes.
probably true.
Yeah.
Still have
Well,
mine.
anyway, my buddy Bruce and I were longtime brother friends. We hiked all around for a couple of days. Then we went up on Cone Peak, which in the Big Sur Wilderness, the Ventana Wilderness is what it's called. You could see the ocean and you could see the mountains behind you. And it was just a beautiful spot. And I went, this is it. This is where we're doing ceremony. And so cut up the mushrooms, put them in a tea or something like that. I forget what it was, drank them. And then we sat there and the sun was setting.
Mhm.
And probably about 30 minutes later is when they started having their effect. And really very, very clear that I was doing this as plant medicine. It wasn't tripping out or, drugs or anything like that. Very clear. Did a lot of prayer, treated it as sacred, which it should be. And I know we're getting close out of time, so I don't want to
We're
overstay.
good.
We're
We're
good.
good. Yeah. We've
Okay.
got,
You
oh yeah,
guys
we're good. We've got,
couldn't worry
technically, we've
something.
got 30 minutes, but go ahead.
Okay. Good. Okay, good. Well, I'll kick back and relax a little bit here. No,
Okay,
but
cool.
we're up on the mountain. We're sitting there watching the sunset, and I could start to feel, the effects of the substance that was going on.
Mm.
One thing led to another, and eventually, what happened after I'm guessing probably a good 90 minutes. First off, you throw up, to get
Yeah,
rid
it's
of
like ayahuasca. Is it something
ayahuasca,
else?
same
Okay.
thing. Very
Hmm.
similar. I've done ayahuasca too in a
Hmm.
sacred way, and very clearly, it's not something to mess around with.
Yeah.
So what happened though was very interesting. At some point, I realized I was no longer in control. And I even said something to Bruce. I said, Bruce, I don't know what's going on here, but you're on your own. Just remember, you can't really fly. I really said that to him too, because he was
Yeah.
flying. So I'm on my
Wow.
knees because I already lost, what was in my body.
Yeah.
And at some point, this hand here came up because I would joke a lot with Ellen, you know, I would joke a lot. But at one point, after I said, sat up, I'm still on my knees, but I sat up. I said, Bruce, blah, blah, blah. And I made it funny. This hand came up the back of my head very firmly and pushed my head to the ground, not to hit the ground. I didn't hit, it wasn't to hurt. It
Mm-hmm.
was pushing it down. So I'm in this like prayer position. This being then started speaking through my voice.
Oh boy. Cool.
I get emotional and chills, and the memory comes back, body
Mhm.
memory as well.
Wow.
And then he pushed me down like this, and then he would stroke my forehead and say, well, first, let me leave out a part. He'd push me down and he'd say through my mouth, there's no fucking around with this stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oops,
that's clear.
too late now.
Yes, you're
I don't
on
even know
a
where that came
you're
from,
on a
but
journey
okay.
here, dude. So then after he would say that, that's when he would stroke my forehead and say, "Phew, we love you." He didn't mean just me. He meant humans.
Yes.
Mhm.
I knew it. I knew that's what he meant.
Yeah.
So anyway, this went on. Uh, um, by the way, he gave me his name eventually, and it's only been a few years now that he's allowed me to say it publicly, because it was very personal and private.
Wow.
And then at one point he gave me permission, and it's in a language, the structure of sound is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that too.
Oh boy. That's
Ana o
cool.
oto, Ana o oto, which in his language, as he told me, means the fierce and compassionate one.
Wow.
Went on to tell me his story that he was embodied 25,000 years ago. And he's transitioned back and forth many times, and he's come to others like myself
Mhm.
as a teacher. And he remains with me. Give me a moment.
No, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
I
Wow.
you.
just I just feel, as you can see, my body's reaction and
I love
emotion,
that. Thank you.
the fierce and compassionate one. And he's still with me. He is what I would term an elder,
Mhm.
a deep elder of the ancestral world. I consider
Mhm.
him an ancestor. Are we related by lineage? I don't know. 25,000 years, you do the
Yeah,
work,
it's
the
pretty
math,
far.
I don't know, probably
Yeah.
in some way. But he went on to teach me for the rest of the night. And
Mhm.
some Bellman didn't fly. He didn't try to fly, so
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I worried about him. Yeah.
he was okay. He
I
was fine through the
I
whole
had
thing.
considerations about him.
Yeah, well, that's why you need to do this with a shaman so that you don't do something like jump off a cliff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that being, that elder, and again, from one perspective, yes, he's an ancestor, absolutely, an
Mhm.
elder of the ancestral world. So, if you think about it, if you go back in the lineage, known or not known to you, but you go back far enough, yeah, you might
Yeah.
get to that point. Do you guys ever see that front 10 minutes of 2001 Space Odyssey?
Oh,
Please
years
watch,
ago.
but watch it again now
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
because that
Homework, you guys.
I love
it's
stuff
a
like that.
it's a metaphor. Yeah, all you guys watch that. It's 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes long. It's a little slow,
Mhm.
getting into it, but it's an amazing metaphor,
Mhm.
for how self-reflective consciousness was injected, you could say,
Yeah.
was given to us. Maybe that's good news, bad news. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
look at this. We can do all sorts of things. Yeah. Look at that building. We did
Like,
that. Yeah. Anyway, um, strongly
I feel like
suggest.
I've got so many questions for you now, by the way.
Well, go ahead and ask any.
Well, I mean, so I have this awareness with dragons, in some way. Oh, I just lost you from the video.
oops, I missed it. Okay, that's I accidentally.
Nice
There we go.
picture.
Uh,
There we
I
go.
I wanted to know, through some of these experience or through experience in working with others, like what are your connections and what do you know about some of these like CE5 encounters, the UAPs or UAFs
UAPs,
now?
they're called UAPs now.
Where people are now, hitting a level of consciousness where they are seeing things when in meditation. One, do you know about that? And two, like, what are some of your experience with people channeling other entities of more the Galactic Federation?
I confess I'm not as experienced as I probably could be. It's just not been my path.
Okay,
Sure.
no, yeah.
I,
Well,
are
we
you in
you
your
said
path?
Space Odyssey and it went there.
Oh,
My
okay. No, I
head.
think legitimate. Thanks for asking the question. I
Yeah.
wish I
Okay.
knew more that I could respond to in that way.
Uh-huh.
My feeling, and it would be a feeling more than
Sure.
a decision or like this is how it is.
I actually subscribe to those more these days.
Yeah.
What's that,
Great.
feelings?
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
yeah. When
Yeah,
someone
yeah, you
starts
get a feel.
talking, yeah, I listen.
Well, you've witnessed me. I'm
Yeah,
um,
you're pretty
one of
real.
the best trainings I've ever had. Not, I'll take that back. Let's not qualify it that way. I've done a lot of training in trauma and trauma recovery, etc. Some of the best stuff I've come across that I still use because people see me as a therapist and or a shamanic practitioner.
Mhm.
When I started, I actually retired my practice for a short period and did just shamanic work.
Mhm.
And then I went, wait, a baby in the bathwater, let's
Yeah,
synthesize the two.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I've had a
So
lot of
glad.
training, some excellent techniques for recovering from PTSD. One is the EMDR, eye movement.
Yes.
Have you
You're
ever heard
the
of that?
third person to say that on our.
Just
Well,
this week.
Yeah,
that's three. Note
there you.
that.
That's the
That's
three.
three.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's significant that it's come up three times.
Cool.
Mhm.
That's how signs show up in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah, yeah, repetition,
There we
repetition
go.
keeps showing up again and again. Um, so what was I talking about? I lost track.
So,
Uh,
bridging the shamanism with the
oh yeah,
psychotherapy and the EMDR.
NPR.
yeah, EMDR, eye motion, it's a mouthful. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's why we
Mhm.
just call it EMDR.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mouthful. But the one that really was the clincher for me was something called somatic experiencing, uh,
Okay.
generated by Peter Levine, who was a great teacher. I did train, I'm certified in that as well. Hypnosis, hypnotherapist, I had some great training with that. So these things have come to me in a way, then it's a matter of responding, and then doing the work that's necessary to have these kind of skills available. And then shamanism came along. I put all that aside and said, let's work with it, even trauma recovery with shamanism. The premise being one of the um, illnesses that can happen is soul loss.
Hmm.
Soul
Soul loss,
loss.
soul loss. Now that sounds big because
Yeah.
it's not really you lose your soul. You're dead if your soul
That's
leaves.
what I was thinking.
Right.
I know that's the first thing, but it's called
Uh-huh.
soul loss. But
Uh-huh.
the paradigm that I work with and I was trained in was the premise that there's parts of the soul that can sort of chip off,
Mm.
Mhm.
and hang out into another reality, non-ordinary reality, typically which is what shamanism deals with quite a bit. So my job is to, through my guides, if there's an indication of soul loss, which I think happens a lot these days. It's not you lose your soul, you lose an aspect or a piece or a part of your soul. My job then is to, with the help of my guides, because it's always about the information they provide and the
I love
guidance they provide, especially in any kind of shamanic work. It's not scripted. It's not something I go, well, let's see, I've done this before. And no, no, no. Let's see where we go. So I take a journey into non-ordinary reality with the intention of finding the lost soul part. And my mission is to convince or persuade that soul piece to come back. And
Mm.
then I do a process where I install that soul piece so that now you've got the whole deal going on.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense?
Yeah, so people who felt like shut down, like they can't, be fully expressive, that might be they put a piece of their soul somewhere. And interesting. Tell us more about that. Like how
Sure.
how does that work?
Well, what happens then is, let's say, if I were uh, um, if I were to do a soul retrieval, is what it's called, soul retrieval like that. Again, it's completely guided. I'm taken back to that piece that's been missing, And then I have a conversation typically with that soul piece. And then the invitation is to return with me so that I can install it in the
Uh-huh.
client.
Uh-huh.
So I've got usually I have a place where I hold the soul. It might be a crystal or anything like. Typically, it's a
Uh-huh.
crystal. I have one sitting here, and
Interesting.
that I'll bring the soul piece into the crystal, and then I'll take it with me back into ordinary reality where I'm with the client.
Cool.
Wow.
Then I take and blow. This is kind of condensed, but basically I take and blow into the heart and into the top of the skull to return
Uh-huh.
the soul piece. And then I look into the person's left eye specifically because the left eye is the soul, or the left side of the face is the soul side. The right
Hmm.
side of the face. I did some face studies about face readings too.
Yeah.
The
I did
right side,
that years ago.
isn't it fun?
Oh, it's so fun. It's like
It's
even
cool.
I remember people who wear bangs, they're actually usually more introverted, and people who don't have bangs are like extroverted. That's like one of the things I
Yeah,
remember
just
from
stuff like
that training. It's weird.
yeah, useful stuff too,
Yeah.
especially as a
Yeah.
healer, that
Hmm.
it's nice to have different resources for that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So then typically what I'll do once the soul fragment is installed, now come on. Once the soul fragment is installed through the top of the head and to the heart, then I'll take and look at the client in their left eye, because that's the soul side of the face. And I'm watching to see if I'm looking at your eyes right now.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I'm watching, I'm not really doing this, by the way, this is, a demonstration, in for an indication of the soul piece going like this, sort of,
Cool.
Hmm.
not quite
Yes.
dramatically, but usually I get a real deep sense, almost like a jolt. Ah, there you are. And then I'll
Yeah.
say something like, welcome home. And
Wow.
then maybe there might be instructions, from there.
Oh,
This is how you
cool.
take it. It takes a while to integrate that soul piece. It is
Sure.
with you now. She or
Mhm.
he is with you now. Uh, their request was that you got to get out and play more.
There it
Please.
is again.
Yep. Well,
The
that was
joy
the
and
thing
play.
that like really brought me alive. And you can see in my pictures, like when I was in high school and early college, like was a pretty girl, but there was like nothing behind my eyes almost. I wasn't really present. So it feels like I probably did this naturally. How would somebody know if they needed that?
That's a good question.
There can be a few different ways, but one is just it's like something's missing in my life.
Yes. Okay.
It's just a feeling, it's a sense that something isn't quite right. I feel
Hmm.
off kilter. We may try to compensate for the soul loss through using alcohol, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
because we're not feeling whole and complete.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't recognize it as not feeling whole and complete. We just recognize as sort of this, what's the great word for it? Anomie,
Yeah, I was
A-N-O-M.
gonna say, oh, interesting way. I was gonna ask, it kind of felt like people might even, or do you find that sometimes people mm, take like have those soul loss in places of their shadow self where they're like really um two questions are coming up. One is like, would someone have that if they're like really ashamed of something, and so they just start to have that like soul loss because of this maybe a shadow aspect of
Yes,
themselves?
absolutely.
Okay.
You can, not consciously, as in you're not aware of it or conscious of what's going on from this paradigm, from this perspective, but you may disavow a certain aspect of yourself frequently and enough that that part of you kind of goes, well, I can't, probably shouldn't say it that way, but uh, okay, well, okay, if you're not gonna hang out with me, I'm gonna go hang out over here in non-ordinary reality. And often what happens when the soul piece is returned, there's a request from the soul piece. And a lot of times, especially if it's a child's soul piece, is something very simple like, I just want her to play more. Take me out. And So then that's the assignment as you go out, but you have that awareness, that consciousness of that which has been returned that was lost along the way for some, trauma. Phew. Yeah, when someone is severely traumatized, especially, that's no brainer. It's a different paradigm, and there's others to work with, but that's a pretty powerful one. I've seen I don't know how else to say it other than miracles. When there's been a soul retrieval, the soul's been lost, and I've had soul retrievals myself. I've been with a healer, shamanic healer. I'm trying to recall one. It was okay. The word authority comes to mind. I'll just leave it at that. It's like trust in your own authority was sort of the gist of that soul aspect that had been lost.
Mm.
And I could see that in my history, of deferring,
Ah,
deferring to other who I viewed as authorities and then compromising that myself. So then gathering that or finding that soul piece or having it found for me and returning it was a real blessing because what has resulted from that is really trusting in my own authority. And all that
Mhm.
means, it doesn't mean an authority, it means trusting my gut, trusting my physical sensations, like I shared a couple with you, trusting that when I feel emotional, it's okay. I've cleaned out a lot. I mean, I was, how would I say? I needed a lot of healing when I was
Yeah.
younger. Let's leave it at that. And some of that had to do with soul loss
Mm.
along the way. And
Mhm.
so I had the good fortune of having soul retrievals done on my behalf. And I think not think I know it. My own experience is that it's helped me feel more connected, more together in a certain way. The words are difficult to grasp, as to how I would describe the feeling, but oh, we're home,
yeah,
welcome.
Mhm.
That's what
that
I
makes
often do.
sense.
Let's say, Leonka, if it was you I was doing a soul retrieval with, I might have you sit in front of me and look in your left eye, the soul side of the face, because I'm looking for that part of you that has been returned and some indication. I'm looking, and don't mean to make you uncomfortable. I'm looking in your left eye mostly for the demonstration. And I would say, well, welcome home and welcome. And then I'd give you an assignment based on what the soul piece told me.
Nice.
Mm.
Often a younger soul piece will say, I just want her to play more.
Mhm.
So you take that soul fragment with you that's now part of you and consciously bring her with you when you go and sit on the swings or play or go
Yeah.
out and play baseball or
Uh-huh.
something like that or soccer or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Lots.
cool.
Very powerful healing process. It really is.
How do you still, is this one of the things that you still do with clients?
Yep.
Do you want to go ahead and just share your website and just kind of let them know if somebody's called to work with you, how they could work with you,
Yeah.
or the best way?
My website.
Or
That's so
or
deep. I
or
got
put
so
your
deep.
phone number in the chat. I don't know however it works
Well,
for you.
should I put it in the text or should I
Yeah,
just
you
say
can
it?
put it in the chat or both. You can do
Or
both.
yeah.
Right. Let's do that. Yeah, it's real easy. It's drstephenfarmer.com.
And they should text you first, correct?
That's the best way to get in
Okay.
touch. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And to find out because
Thank you guys for all the chat messages. I just is wow. Today
Yeah.
it's been like
Amazing.
where we haven't even been able to keep up with it today.
well, good. That's
Goodness.
good. I'm glad that and thank you for the invitation, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness. That was
enjoyed
so
it.
fun. I feel like we could just sit here and talk with you for 3 hours.
Dr. Farmer, do you have any other parting words for the group today? Maybe from yourself or your guides, or we've got about 10 minutes.
Oh, we have 10 minutes. Okay, good. Um, Needless to say, although I'm going to say it, there's a very substantial evolution, and I do mean evolution, that's occurring. We're seeing children that come in and they have the light, you know, um, not that hasn't happened before, but it seems like more and more. Um, I think the study and ultimately the practice of what has been put aside, for a long time with our species, other than maybe in, people out in the jungle or, the forest or someplace like that, where there have been groups that have sustained that thread of spiritual healing, of awareness of how things work in a different way, non-ordinary reality concept that I first came across with Michael Harner's book, Way of the Shaman, who I studied with as well. I encourage people to look into shamanism.
Hmm.
It's not about necessarily practicing it, as a healing force, but I think it gives a lot of information, and there's a lot more people that are working with shamanism.
Yeah.
It's not the be all and the end all, but it's, I think, a really interesting path because it's earth oriented too. That's another thing. It's not just hanging out in the celestial.
Right.
It incorporates
Just a
some.
little more grounded and a little
Love
more
that.
embodied.
Like, hey guys, summertime, go barefoot
Right.
Yeah.
on the ground for a while. Feel the vibration of the earth. Thank
Hmm.
Mother, for all that she gives to us, the mother
Yeah.
of us all. Start incorporating these kind of practices in your day-to-day life. I think it's frankly, I think it's critical,
I
to
think.
do. Yeah, pray. I don't
Hmm.
care who you pray to. Listen, listen with all of you. There's different ways to get messages. Oracle cards. That's only one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to draw one now just for fun. Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is from
Love
the
that.
Spirits of Nature. I recommend these, not necessarily just mine. I mean, there's 150 different oracle cards, but whatever you're led to use, because it can provide you literally day-to-day guidance, about how to stay on track and
Hmm.
and really live who you are. Okay, so thank you, Spirits of Nature. I ask for the message that comes through to be clear, evident, and will allow insights. Okay, okay, okay. I'm gonna draw two.
I heard you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
How funny.
Well, what's funny about this is I drew this earlier
I
today.
know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the
So
Yeah.
dandelion.
That's the damn Lynn.
healing.
Yeah.
We'll just stop there. Healing. This is what you guys are doing. I honor you for that, for what you're offering, people is there's a deeper healing that's going on in humans, right now. There's a greater interest in these kind of topics, How did our ancestors live?
Yeah.
How did those apes that
Hmm.
Yeah.
again that front piece of 2001 metaphor,
Yeah.
that something happened, something was
Hmm.
planted. And I love this one.
Hmm.
I was prompted to draw two. This is cloud,
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
imagination.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, imagination, we have this take on imagination that it's all made up and it's fantasy and such like that.
We talked about that earlier on the show too. We were like, what if none of it is?
What
Like,
if none of it
what
is?
if, what if, what, like, so I'm reading this really cool book. It's called Fourth Wing. Everyone will probably knows about it now because I can't stop talking about the book. Uh, and I just feel like she's like with these dragons and they're channeling and they're discovering their gifts where they can make things disappear, they can make things lock and stuff like that. And I'm like, what if this person that wrote this book thinks that she's imagining all of it? That's not really proper English, sorry about that.
It
And
works.
but what if
I
she's
actually like
actually
it.
remembering this or remembering parts of this and putting it parts with other previous lives and things like that? It just made me really feel like I wouldn't be saying it if there wasn't something that was like curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love doing what I'm doing. I love being able to, talk with and discuss these kind of topics. and share whatever I've come across and whatever comes up in the conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because I think I just not think, I know it is. I know it's needed
Yes.
right now. It's like, bing, reminder,
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes.
another
Thank
reminder,
you.
Yes.
who you really are, not
Ooh.
Yeah.
who you
Right.
really are. And then go out and sit in the swing and just swing and have some fun.
And use your imagination just because it's fun.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
the subconscious does not know the difference
Put those
between.
dandelions in your pigtails. Get on that swing and start imagining.
That's right.
One
I
of
was
my
going to
songs I
say,
wrote is, man, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
I was going to say the subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So what we can imagine is true, right? Like what we can imagine, we can have be true. There's nothing greater than than that of the human mind, especially when connected to or more are connected
Yeah.
and in prayer and through thought and intention. But go ahead.
Well, briefly, I'm a songwriter too. I mean, I'll call myself a songwriter. I've written probably about 20 different
And then
songs, and one is called Imagination. And the first line in that song is, "How does it make you feel?"
Mm.
Let's see,
How does it make you
how does
feel?
it make you feel living in your own reality?
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And it goes on from there, and it's about imagination,
Love
truly.
it. Wow.
And
Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for
it's been
joining us.
fun.
Yeah, very fun. All
Thank
right.
you so much, Dr. Farmer. It's funny because when we finished up last time, I concluded our pre-call with "I love you."
And
And
she
it
shared it
just
with the
fell
audience.
out of my mouth. And everybody thought it was so funny that I told you I love you at that time that we had talked when I was booking you for the show. And you were nice enough to just say, I love you too.
Well,
I mean, there is this adoration that I
Of
feel
course.
as well.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yes.
thank you both. And yes, I do love you.
Oh, we
Oh,
love
I
very
you
think it's
sweet.
too.
Very sweet. Love you. So
sometimes
thank
doesn't
you.
always,
Thank you. Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you both for doing what you're doing. You're definitely on a mission with this, and it
Oh,
is
thank you.
purpose, however you might define it with words, but it
Mm.
does. I get it. It does fit. It's
Yeah.
nice the tag team you guys got going too. Yeah,
We enjoy it.
Yeah, it's seeming to work.
two different ways of operating. So yeah, where are you guys located, by the way?
Austin, Texas.
I'm good old Austin. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to come out this way or we'll come by and see you sometime.
Going
Thank you
over
for
to
joining
Ashland. You'll
us.
love it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, for
Take care.
sure.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Everybody else, stick around. We have another wonderful guest coming up here in just a moment, but give us a second. We're going to take a bio break and we'll be right back.